How was the Ark of the Covenant built, and how was it actually used? Slaves in the desert assembled 1.15 meters of pure gold, weighing 150 kilograms. Millimetric measurements. 3 perfect layers, 1 error and death. But how did they do it without modern workshops? And why did a single touch kill instantly? Today, you are going to see the complete technical process of each piece, the impossible materials they used, and the mortal rituals that only one man per year could execute. Fail a detail, and you do not come out alive. And where will the Ark be these days? Stay until the end of the video. God calls Moses to the top of Mount Sinai and gives instructions to build an object. Exact measurements, specific materials, detailed techniques. 1 error and everything was useless. But the first problem was brutal. Who was going to build this? Israel had just fled Egypt after 400 years making brick. They did not have workshops. They did not have precision tools. They did not have time, and God asked for art in gold that demanded the skill of a master craftsman. The solution came in a way that never happened before. God chose a man named Bezalel, of the tribe of Judah, and filled him with the Holy Spirit, specifically to build. He was the first man in the Bible described as filled with the Spirit of God, not to prophesy, not to lead armies, but to work with the hands. God filled him with wisdom to work with gold, silver and bronze, cut stones, carve wood with precision. Bezalel was 30 years old, and next to him came Oholiab, of the tribe of Dan, as an assistant. But skill did not solve the second material problem. From where did fugitive slaves get enough gold to coat an entire chest inside and out? Before leaving Egypt, the Israelites asked the Egyptians for articles of silver, gold, and clothes, and the Egyptians, terrified by the 10 plagues, gave everything. They despoiled Egypt. It was not robbery. It was back pay for 400 years of work without salary. Then, when the moment came to build, the people brought real gold, melted earrings, broken bracelets, fused necklaces, and the most surprising, they brought much more than necessary. Moses had to order that they stop donating, but gold was not the only material. And the list of what God asked went much further than anyone expected. God asked for acacia wood, one of the few trees that survives in the Sinai desert. Hard wood, dense, practically indestructible, perfect for something that would be carried for decades. And then came the fabrics. Fine linen, blue threads, purple and crimson, goat hair, ram skins dyed red. Each material had a specific function. Each color represented something sacred. But here is the detail that few notice. Purple in antiquity was the most expensive color in the world. A single gram of purple dye demanded thousands of ground sea mollusks. It was worth more than gold, and God was asking for entire threads of that color. From where did a people in the middle of the desert get this? Probably they brought from Egypt along with the gold. The Egyptians had trade routes with Phoenicians who produced the dye, and when the Israelites asked for clothes, they did not specify which ones. The Egyptians gave noble fabrics, elite clothes, materials that normally only pharaohs used. Bezalel joined everything: melted gold, cut wood, very expensive fabrics, and began to assemble something that would kill anyone who touched. How did he do it without dying in the process? The first rule of construction was simple. If you make a mistake in the measurements, you are dead. The box had to be exactly 1.15 meters long, 70 centimeters wide, and 70 centimeters high. 1 finger more or less, and it was wrong. God had given specific numbers. There was no margin of error. Bezalel cut acacia boards measured to the millimeter using ropes marked with knots at precise intervals, an Egyptian technique that he probably learned watching masters work. But wood alone was not enough, and what came next demanded skill that went much further than carpentry. God ordered that the ark be coated with pure gold inside and out. And here comes the first mortal technical challenge. Pure gold is soft. You cannot simply glue thin sheets over wood. Bezalel needed to hammer the gold until it was malleable, but not so thin that it would tear at the slightest touch. Then he fixed using tiny gold nails or natural resin, functioning as adhesive. Each centimeter had to be covered without flaws if the wood remained exposed at any point. The ark was useless. 3 complete layers, acacia wood in the center, gold coating all the interior, gold coating all the exterior. This made the ark incredibly heavy, close to 150 kilograms. 2 people together could not lift it. Then came a gold border around the top. It was not decoration. It was structural reinforcement to protect the edges when the ark was transported. But here is something that modern researchers discovered. That structure, conductor, insulator. Conductor is identical to a giant electrical capacitor. Gold conducts electricity. Wood isolates. Another gold conducts again. If the ark accumulated static charge being carried through the desert, it would function as a primitive battery storing voltage. And the cherubim that Bezalel still needed to sculpt were going to function as discharge points. Exactly like Tesla coils concentrate electricity at a specific point. If someone with a different charge touched the ark, 50,000 volts straight to the body. Instant death without apparent explanation. But at that moment, Bezalel did not know this. He only knew that he needed to finish the stage, and what he sculpted over it would become the most dangerous place on earth. The ark was ready, but empty. And here comes the part that nobody understands well. What was placed inside? And why did those specific objects make the ark so powerful? First thing, the tablets of the law. 2 stone tablets written by the very finger of God on Mount Sinai. The 10 Commandments engraved in stone were not copies. They were the originals. But there is a detail. Those were not the first tablets. When Moses came down from the mountain for the first time carrying the original tablets, he saw the people dancing around a golden calf in a fit of total fury. He threw the tablets to the ground. They broke into pieces. God commanded to make others. Moses cut 2 new tablets, went up the mountain again, and God wrote everything again. Those second tablets were placed inside the ark. But the tablets were not the only objects in there. There was also the rod of Aaron. The people of Israel were questioning the leadership of Aaron as high priest. Then, God ordered a test. 12 rods, 1 from each tribe, placed in front of the tabernacle during the night. The next morning, 11 rods were exactly as they were left, dry, dead. But the rod of Aaron had sprouted. It produced leaves, flowers, and ripe almonds in a single night. A dead rod that blossomed alone. God ordered that rod to be kept inside the ark as physical proof that he had chosen Aaron. Third object, the manna, the bread that fell from heaven every morning during the 40 years in the desert. And here is the strange part. If you tried to keep manna for the next day, it rotted and filled with worms. But the manna inside the ark did not rot. It remained preserved for centuries without refrigeration, without preservatives, only God keeping it fresh. So, inside the ark you had 3 things. The tablets representing the Word of God, the rod representing priestly authority, and the manna representing divine provision. But those objects were only half of the power. And anyone who tried to carry badly discovered this too late. The ark was not something you simply grabbed and took. There were specific instructions, extremely detailed, and breaking a single rule meant immediate death. The Levites of the family of Kohath were the only ones authorized to carry, but not even they could wake up and simply take the rods. 7 days of preparation before each transport. Ceremonial washings 3 times per day with water mixed with ashes of a red heifer. Complete sexual abstinence during the whole week. Partial fasts. Purification offerings burned on the altar. Why all this? Because touching the ark in a state of impurity not only killed you, the wrath of God could fall on the entire camp. It was a collective responsibility. When the camp needed to move, the priests entered the Holy of Holies, removed the veil that separated the most holy place, and covered the ark with it. Then they placed a covering of sea animal skin on top, and a totally blue cloth over everything. Only then did they fit the rods into the rings. And here is the rule that killed people. Only the Levites could carry, and not even they could touch it directly. The rods were the only permitted form, 2 men on each side holding on the shoulders, walking synchronized. Because if one stumbled and the ark balanced too much, someone could instinctively try to hold it. It was exactly that what happened with Uzzah. David was transporting the ark back to Jerusalem, but he committed a critical error from the start. They placed the ark on a new cart pulled by oxen. It seemed practical. It seemed safe. But God never authorized carrying the ark in a cart, only on the shoulders of the Levites using the rods. The cart followed the journey. Everything apparently calm until the oxen stumbled. The cart balanced violently. The ark began to slide. Uzzah, who was walking beside, saw what was about to happen and stretched out his hand. He touched the ark. He fell dead in the moment. The wrath of God kindled against him. It was not an accident. It was not bad luck. It was a rupture of an explicit rule, and the consequence was instantaneous. But death by touch was not the only danger. And when the ark entered into war, entire cities discovered what happened when God fought against you. When Israel went to war, the ark went along, but not as you imagine. The process of transporting it to battle had specific rules that transformed the ark into a devastating psychological weapon. Before any battle, the leaders consulted God in front of the ark using the Urim and Thummim, sacred stones kept in the breastplate of the high priest. The answer came as yes or no. Go or do not go. If God said no and they took the ark anyway, guaranteed disaster, and the positioning was strategic. The ark did not go on the front line where it could be captured. It remained behind the army, but visible enough so that both Israelites and enemies knew it was there. The psychological effect was double. The Israelites fought with absolute confidence because God was literally present, and the enemies fought with paralyzing fear. Jericho had walls of 6 meters thickness, a military structure considered impenetrable in the era. But the ark was carried around the city once per day for 6 days, 7 priests blowing trumpets at the front. On the 7th day, 7 complete laps. When the trumpets sounded and the people shouted simultaneously, the walls collapsed. And here is the archaeological detail that nobody expected. When they excavated Jericho in the 1950s, they discovered that the walls fell outward, not inward, as happens in normal invasions, as if something from inside pushed everything toward the outside. Controlled explosion, acoustic resonance that destabilized the foundations, or simply the power of the ark manifested in pure physics. Some researchers propose another explanation. If the ark really functioned as a giant capacitor, accumulating electrostatic energy, the trumpets and shouts could have created a synchronized discharge, 7 trumpets generating specific frequencies, thousands of people shouting at the same time, the ark releasing all accumulated energy in an electromagnetic pulse. It sounds like science fiction, but the structure of the ark, gold, wood, gold, pointed cherubim, is literally the design of a storage and electrical discharge device. But here is the critical detail. The ark only functioned as a weapon when Israel was in obedience. Israel took the ark to battle against the Philistines, thinking they would have automatic victory. But they were in grave sin. Result: 30,000 soldiers dead and the ark captured by the enemies. And what the Philistines discovered after capturing it was worse than any military defeat. Once per year, on the Day of Atonement, the most dangerous ritual of the ancient world happened. It was the only day that someone could enter the Holy of Holies, where the ark was kept, and only one person in the entire world had permission: the high priest. If any other person tried to enter, they died instantly. But not even the high priest could simply enter. The preparation took 7 days. He separated from the family and lived inside the temple. Constant ritual washings, intense study of the instructions, preparatory offerings. On the day itself, he took a complete ceremonial bath, wore specific clothes of white linen without gold ornaments, and sacrificed a bull as an offering for his own sin first. Then he took a censer full of coals from the altar, filled his hands with ground aromatic incense, and entered. And here comes the part that few people understand. The incense was not for decoration. The cloud of incense had to cover the mercy seat so that he would not die. The smoke created a barrier of protection between the priest and the direct manifestation of the glory of God that inhabited between the cherubim. If he entered without enough incense, he saw the glory uncovered and died. If the incense was prepared poorly, with ingredients different from those ordered, he died. Each step had to be exact. After creating the protective cloud, he went out, took blood from the sacrificed bull, and returned. With his finger, he sprinkled blood 7 times on the mercy seat and 7 times in front of it. That blood symbolically covered the sins of Israel for 1 more year. The complete ritual took close to 15 minutes inside the Holy of Holies, 15 minutes in which the high priest was alone with the physical presence of God, without witnesses, without help, without communication with the outside. If something went wrong, he fell dead and stayed there until the next year, when another high priest entered. That is why some Jewish texts mention that they tied a rope to the ankle of the high priest. But this is probably a legend developed later. What we know with certainty is that nobody could enter to help if he died. That was the most important ritual use of the ark, an annual encounter between the representative of Israel and God, mediated by blood, smoke, and perfect obedience. But after centuries functioning exactly like this, something happened and the ark disappeared from history without leaving a trace. If you believe that obeying God, even when we do not understand the motive, can save your life, comment, I obey God. 586 years before Christ, Babylonians invade Jerusalem, burn the Temple of Solomon to the foundations, and when the soldiers enter the Holy of Holies, nothing. The ark had disappeared. 3 theories dominate scholars until today. First, it was destroyed by the Babylonians and the gold was melted. But no Babylonian record mentions capturing gold in the format of an ark. And the Babylonians were meticulous in documenting war treasures. Nebuchadnezzar listed each object of gold that he took from the temple: cups, candlesticks, utensils, but no ark. Second theory, it was hidden by the priests before the invasion in secret tunnels under the Temple Mount. And this has strong archaeological evidence. Modern excavations found dozens of sealed chambers that nobody can access due to political and religious questions. Jews do not permit because it is a sacred place. Muslims do not permit because they built mosques on top. In 1981, a rabbi named Yehuda Getz was excavating tunnels under the Western Wall when he found a blocked corridor that led directly under the Temple Mount. He believed the Ark was there. But Muslim authorities discovered, filled the tunnel with concrete and prohibited any future excavation. Third theory, it was taken to Ethiopia by the son of King Solomon with the Queen of Sheba, and is kept until today in the Church of St. Mary of Zion, in the city of Aksum. And this theory has strange details. There is a guardian who lives inside the church and never comes out. He is chosen while young and spends the rest of his life protecting something that nobody else can see. When he is about to die, he chooses a successor and transfers the secret. This pattern continues for centuries. Reporters, archaeologists, and even authorities of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church itself current. Monk Abba Gebre Meskel says that he saw the Ark, but cannot describe it. Photographs are prohibited. Any attempt at scientific investigation is blocked. And in 1936, the fascination for the Ark surpassed religious territory. Heinrich Himmler, right hand of Hitler, sent Nazi brigades to the mountains of France searching for the Ark in the Chateau of Montségur. They believed that the Knights Templar had hidden it there during the Crusades. Why did Nazis want the Ark? Because historical records described the Ark being taken to battle and emitting power, which brought down walls and killed entire armies. Himmler, obsessed with occultism, believed that finding it would guarantee the victory of the Third Reich. They spent months excavating tunnels in the mountains. They found nothing. Today, Israeli archaeologists believe that it is hidden in secret chambers under the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. But excavations are prohibited by political tensions between Jews and Muslims. Then, the greatest mystery is not only what the Ark was, it is where it is now. And if someone finds it, what happens when they touch it for the first time? In 2,600 years after the Ark disappeared, King Solomon built the most grand temple in history, specifically to house it in the Holy of Holies. Do you want to know how the Temple of Solomon was built? The most expensive and technically impossible structure of the ancient world, with stones of 400 tons, moved without modern machines. Click here on the screen now and discover how 150,000 men worked 7 years to create the House of the Ark.